It's UFC 274 this week. It is episode 11 of Ed2Shed. I'm up $10 this week.
Yeah, you win the naming rights this week, but I always come back hard.
We'll see what happens. We got a lot of fights to cover. 15 fight card. Let's just jump right into it. Draft battle. Let's start to wade through this thing. It's going to be a long one.
15 fights. I'm up first.
That's right. The rumors are true. It is episode 11, UFC 274, and Dev's up $10. So it's Ed2Shed this week. Let's get right into it. It's draft battle, $5 picks. Steve is up first this week because I incorrectly called for a stoppage. Is that right?
Yeah, you took under 4.5 rounds for the Cheeto Rob Font fight, and Cheeto just would not finish him off. He had a few opportunities there late in round 4 and 5, but just would not do it for you. So I'll take first pick there.
So we got 15 fights on deck. First round picks are Brandon Royval on my side, and first pick overall is Rodriguez for you.
Yeah, so I started off with Clayton Rodriguez. He was at 1.25. I think this guy kind of has like a little bit of an awkward stance. CJ Vergara is like a little bit turtley kind of guy. So I kind of picture Clayton just mesmerizing him and just picking him apart with range a little bit. Just poking them, picking them. This is a couple of light guys.
I guess you're trying to say Clayton's going to try to play the outside game. CJ's going to try to close the distance.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen there. And then he's just going to eat damage on his way in. Just going to go distance, win 30-27.
Brandon Royval, man, the flyweights, it's just too good a money line, and they don't really have a lot of stopping power, so I'm not worried about like an upset knockout or anything. So right. I have a bit more faith in just betting money line when the weights aren't heavy enough to have that flash knockout like we saw in the big miss pick with Andre Touchy-Feely. He just got slept, man, out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Oh, yeah, that was brutal. Moving on. So, yeah, moving on. I took Norma Dumont.
Yeah, I looked up a bit of footage of Macy Chasson since I'm cheering for her this week, and she had a first-round stoppage of Gina Mazzani, who, as we know, does not work for the UFC anymore after last week's performance.
No, lost a big one last week and paid the price.
So I saw a little bit of footage of Chasson. I think Mazzani called her a giraffe. So now we're seeing Macy try to move up that 10 pounds so people won't make fun of her or whatever at 145 pounds. This is a women's featherweight matchup. I'm always keeping an eye out for those. Usually intriguing, bit interesting. You know, there's a lot of variation across the ladies' weight classes, 115 to 145.
Yeah, and at the 145, they don't have a whole lot of fighters there. Is that right?
No, so people will test the waters. They'll move up. We saw OSP 205 pounds, right next to Loopy in the odds. OSP tried to go up to heavyweight a couple of times. He did go 0-2 at heavyweight. One loss to Tanner Bozer and a split decision loss to Ben Rothwell.
Well, no problem.
Next up, Rose Namajunas. That is not how you spell her name.
Damn it.
Rose. I just watched her fight Carla the first time around. That was 8 years ago, so she's come a long way. If she can manage to outstrike Carla, because I watched Carla's fight with Joanna Jędrzejczyk, if she can outstrike her, if she can keep Carla off of her knees and stop the takedowns, Rose could win this fight. 137 is pretty strong on the money line for this one.
Yeah, I was a fan of Rose on this one too, and I planned to take her next, and you stole her from me there. So you'll see that one return on the gambling picks.
Good stuff. You took Lupi Godinez. Now she's coming off a little loss, but it was super short notice, right?
Yeah, no worries about that. So I think she's going to come back strong now that she's got a full camp and a loss under her belt. You know, maybe she learned a lesson. Maybe she just needed some time, but she'll be back at form and she'll get the win.
Now, we're looking at the card here. We have basically 3 tiers of fights, and Lupi Godinez kind of bringing us into the middle of the pack, the less one-sided fights, if you will, here on this card. I took Charlie Olives, man. Let's jump down a little bit. Let's take the champ. Charlie's been the underdog for a very long time. Like, I think the last couple of years, he's just been underdog in all of those fights while he was streaking, and the odds makers are finally making him the favorite in these matchups.
Yeah, well, I mean, rightly so. It took him forever to get a shot at the championship, and then he hasn't lost a cent. So we'll see if Justin Gaethje can take it. We were talking about Gaethje a while ago, saying that he couldn't win the big fight, even though he was he was 22-2 or whatever he was at that time. But you know, he got the monkey off his back, and he won the interim against Tony Ferguson. But can he win this one now? I'm not sure. I don't think his style.
When we think Justin Gaethje in the title fight, you know what? My mind jumps to him losing to Khabib. And Charlie Oliveira is going to be a similar game plan, right? If he's going to
Yeah.
have that advantage on the ground, as simple as that. So I think Gaethje could win it on the feet, but he doesn't really have that path to victory on the ground. And Charlie
Mhm.
Olives can do it both ways.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Charlie Olives, he's got KO power, so he's got every aspect of the game. And Gaethje, he has good takedown defense, but if he's down, then that's all he's really got.
We've seen Charlie Oliveira after Saturday night. He will have fought all the lightweights on this card except for Joe Lozon. So we saw him match up with Michael Chandler, and he knocked out Michael Chandler. Charlie Olives has hands. He can knock you out on the feet.
He does. He does. And Chandler was working him in first round.
Chandler was working him. So I think we've seen Charlie Olives fight from behind adversity. If Gaethje can pressure a bit more and maybe win a round, maybe even two, we'll see what happens. And I took Charlie Oliveira for my third pick overall this week. I took OSP next.
Yeah, I popped up and I started cleaning up some of the higher odds folks there. I still wasn't really a fan of Fialho and Michael Chandler. Tony Ferguson can last forever in the ring. And I kind of like Cameron Van Camp, whatever I watched of him there. So I took OSP.
Like I was mentioning earlier, his little experiment at heavyweight, you want to call that, might have tainted his record a little bit. So you still think OSP can get it done against Shogun?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna hope so. I kind of liked OSP at 2.0 odds against you in the draft here, but I probably will. I am kind of leaning towards the gray area here. I think Mauricio Rua is good value at 295 too. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Journey Newson and that Joe Lozon. Are they good money where they're at? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now you look at Andre's record, 15-4, just 1-1 in the UFC, but that loss was short notice against Michel Pereira, and Michel's a very good fighter. And Andre, he showed some toughness and he showed some strength in his last outing, which was a stoppage win.
It's not a bad line there, right there, against Cameron Van Camp making his UFC debut.
Now, next round of picks. You took Mikey Chandler going up against Tony Ferguson. I just didn't want to touch that Ferguson fight. And Fernie Garcia was just not huge on Journey Newson, not loving either side of the odds, honestly, and just wanted to skip that Donald Cerrone fight because I don't like that pick either.
Yeah, I don't like that one either. But I kind of was okay taking Chandler here at 2.0 against you in the draft. I don't like it at all at 125. I mean, Ferguson won't get knocked out. Chandler has a lot of knockout power, so that's kind of an aspect of his game taken away. But I think he could just box him around for 15 minutes, and we'll just see him win a decision victory there. So I'll take Chandler in the draft.
I think the 3 rounds might play to Ferguson's favor. I think that if he is going to get something squeezed out, maybe with a little bit of control time, maybe with a little bit of energy to match Chandler in the first round, steal it away with the striking, then that's a better path than 5 rounds. I don't think Ferguson is going to make it happen in the 5 rounds. We've seen him lose a lot of rounds in a row lately, and it's one thing to have a losing streak, and it's another when you're losing for like 15 minutes straight, right?
His weapon is his endurance there, so if he makes it to round 3 and gets a finish somehow or anything like that, I can see Chandler loading up on his shots and throwing haymakers and gassing himself by boxing Tony Ferguson for 10 minutes, and then Tony switches it around with a round 3 KO or something like that. I can see that happening very easily.
I don't think either guy is going to retire after this fight. We'll see who they match up with after this one. Now, I took Marcos Rogerio de Lima. You took Tracy Cortez for the next round.
I like Tracy. I watched a bit of her. She looked good this week. I know Melissa Gatto is pretty dangerous, so I wasn't super confident in this pick, but that's why it's so late. So, and we've seen our first dog get off the board.
Yeah, man. I went with Marcos. I've seen him let the hands go. I'm just leaning towards that Blagoy. He's fought a couple of split decisions in the past. Fought with Derek Lewis to a split decision. We saw him beat Taito Iwaza, who's now a top 5 guy, and he's coming off a couple losses, split decisions to Augusto Sakai, coming off split decision loss to Derek Lewis. But I just don't think Blagoy has the urgency. I think Marcos is going to get in there and pressure him a little bit, go to try to finish. I think Blagoy is content to just chill and hang out because we've seen him do it for 30 minutes of ring time.
Blagoy is gatekeeping there at rank 15, I think, in the heavyweight. So maybe we see somebody else enter and somebody leave.
Very, very possible. We'll see what happens with that one. Again, pretty much a pick 'em. We're getting pretty tight on the odds here. Randy Brown.
Yeah, I kind of like him over Chaos Williams there. He's got a lot of range, and when you get in close, he's got a lot of grappling. So he's dangerous from all levels. Chaos Williams is pretty much only relying there on the KO. He's 1.9 there to win, but 225 to win by KO. So he's only got the one option there. And I think Randy Brown's just got a complete game. Maybe he's going to slow it down, keep him at a distance, hopefully, and bring home the W for that one.
Yeah, looking at Chaos Williams, also has a loss to Michelle Pajeda. I'm fading Donald Cerrone this week. Sorry, Donald.
It's a good idea, probably. Given his last few fights there, we haven't seen much from Donald Cerrone lately.
Man, when Dana White's going on and interviewing and he's saying, if you lose this fight, right off into the sunset. Like when the boss is talking some shit, man, like I can't get behind you right now. I'm sorry, Donald.
Yeah. Maybe he's just waiting until he wins one so he can retire off of that. But, I don't know.
He's been waiting a while. He's been waiting a while, Steven.
He's been waiting. Is it 6 fights that he's fought now without a win?
Yeah, I think it was 4 losses and a draw in his last 5 fights, something like that. Last pick of the night, Danny Roberts.
I think Danny Roberts is going to win this one. I think he's going to win. He looked pretty impressive his last 2 fights. I didn't see much of Francisco Trinaldo there, unfortunately. But Danny's got a good energy. He's been around for a long time. I think he's going to pick up the W this week.
Good stuff. Now, big night for fights, big weekend for fights. We also got the Bellator going on. They got Ryan Bader on the card. I believe they got Yoel Romero on the card. And then we got Canelo Alvarez because it's Cinco de Mayo weekend. Got to dust off some boxing. We got Canelo on DAZN pay-per-view. Get your DAZN subscription fired up. Get your pay-per-view going. It's going down May 7th in Vegas. That's why the UFC is on the road. We're in Phoenix, Arizona this week. Now, my final pick of the night is going to be for first pick next week. We're taking Canelo by decision. That's like 1.55 odds, minus 180. We're going to ride that if we can go first next week. Canelo on the money line is somewhere between minus 500, minus 600 right now. So the Dev spicy pick of the week is bet 5 units on Canelo money line to win 1 unit. That's my big Dev spicy pick of the week.
You really think that he's going to do it, do you?
Canelo money line, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Now, the path to victory for Canelo, rip the body. Hit him in the body, make him drop the hands, hit him in the head again. It's boxing. It's what you do.
Yeah, you've only got 2 things to do. Is that right?
Hit the head or hit the body.
I've seen Tony Ferguson throw some thigh punches, I think, against Gaethje.
Little thigh punch. Yeah. Did you see him throw sand?
I did, yeah. That was good.
He did the leg sweep. He did the sweep. The leg worked pretty good.
Did the sweep. He tried the back roll, like Japanese submission attempt.
Yeah, the Imanari roll. He tried the Imanari. So, Canelo Alvarez, however. Canelo's fought in a whole bunch of weight classes as he's been moving through his career. 57-1. The one loss coming to Floyd Mayweather. Pretty sure he had to move up to like 168 pounds to fight Floyd. Canelo fought 4 times in 2010. He's been fighting an average of 2 times a year since. If you haven't heard about him, tune in. He's a great fighter. They call him the best boxer you've never heard of. He's got the 4 belts. Boxing has 4 belts, as you may know. He's got all 4 at 168 pounds. He's going to take a little trip up to 175 this week to fight Bivol. And Canelo's only 31 years old. We got 4 fights on the Nerd Limbs. Like I said, stacked up card, 15 fights. Kicking off, Journey Newson, Fernie Garcia. Don't blink for this fight, man. You want to go hit the bathroom, hit it between rounds, not during the match. See all the low weights here. We got 115 at straw, 135 bantam, 125 at fly. So this is the low weight showcase, if you will, here in the Nerd Limb slot. Then we got the first half of the prelims. Blagoy Ivanov, like you said, gatekeeping the rankings, trying to keep Marcos RDL out of there.
So we got my early pick there in the Nerd Limbs. We got your early pick here with Brandon Royval.
Yeah, Royval Chanel. A lot of great 125-pound fights are usually tucked away into the earlier end of the card. So Royval Chanel, super high-end fight, topping off the first half. Again, I'm looking forward to that Chasson-Dumont fight. Things are happening at 145.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a good match there at welterweight as well, with Randy Brown, Chaos Williams, a couple of experienced guys going to go head-to-head. A couple of new guys going on, Cameron Van Camp and Andre Fialou. We got this one on short notice. We had 14 fights. Wasn't enough, so they added another one.
Okay, and it's just tucked in that pre-pay-per-view slot. That's the money slot right there. People enjoy the fight. They're going to start hitting that buy. $64.99 gets you past that paywall into the pay-per-view territory.
Yeah, and then you're immediately greeted with Donald Cerrone retiring.
In 2022. Tune in.
Maybe we'll see.
Shit, don't clown on Cowboy, damn. But definitely a little bit of what year is this going on here? These guys are hella experienced in this front half of this card, man.
Yeah, Chandler and Ferguson are 36, 37.
Okay, Shogun won the Pride Grand Prix in August 2005. Yeah, and Donald's first UFC fight, February 2011. He was in the WEC before that. So September 2007 was Cerrone his first fight in the WEC, that UFC precursor for the lighter weight classes. And, Tony Ferguson coming off of a long career in the UFC. He had that 12-fight streak before his 3-fight skid. Just keeps on trucking. Chandler coming from Bellator, was a champ over there at one point. Shogun and OSP, both guys trying to just bounce back a little. Shogun in his last 5 fights, he's 2-2 with a draw. OSP is 2-3 in his last 5, and that includes his little venture up to 265, but he went 0-2. Shogun hasn't fought since November 2020. What has he been doing? That's an 18-month layoff. How is that going to factor in? 2 title fights, women's 115, Rose Carla rematch, and Charlie Allis taking on Justin Gaethje at 155 pounds. Both pretty tight odds, -170 for Charles, -200 for Rose.
Yeah, these should be great fights. Entertaining, energy, explosive, just absolutely worth watching.
Very top of the division, right? We're not digging our way through the division. This is the very top end. We're talking number 1 in Justin Gaethje, number 2 in Carla Esparza. This is the top end of these divisions. If Rose can get past Carla, who's she taking on next? Marina Rodriguez, probably, who just beat back Yan Xiaonan.
Yeah, maybe. I would like to see that. That would be pretty fun.
And then Charlie Olives, if he beats back Justin Gaethje, he, in theory, could be next to fight Conor McGregor. If he does that, he'll have the same 3 common opponents to Khabib when Khabib left, because Khabib's last 3 were he fought McGregor, he fought Poirier, then he fought Gaethje. And now Oliveira fought Chandler, then Poirier, then Gaethje, and then he could fight Conor too. And then we would see, him clearing back the same set of guys that the previous champ did. That could be good for his bragging rights. Say, I beat the same guys as that guy. I'm at least that good for his legacy. Oh yeah, I think Charlie Oliveira has the record for most submissions in the UFC.
When I was watching Charlie Oliveira's last couple of fights there, it looks like he actually got wobbled pretty early when he was fighting Poirier. He looked pretty sketchy at the first there. When he was fighting Chandler had him on the ropes there for the first round. So look for Gaethje to look for it early, but if he can't get it done, watch Charles Oliveira bounce back. If you can, live bet Charles Oliveira after round 1 if Gaethje's looking sharp.
I was thinking the same thing. That's a really good point. If Justin can have a good first round, he might be able to give you a better betting line on Charlie Oliveira. Now, as I like to say, if I had a great night betting, someone else probably had a terrible one. I'm up $10, but we didn't do so hot in the gambling picks last week.
No, we lost a couple of units last week. We lucked out on a split decision going my way. That probably was a little bit of a steal. But we seen Touchy-Feely go down early in round 1, which lost me a couple of units, and I never really recovered from that one afterwards. But we're back on it this week, and we're going to win that money back.
Doing a couple little props, doing some partial unit bettings this week. We got a little Marcos Rogerio de Lima, Joe Lozon parlay for 0.4 units. And then we're doing a little spicy sprinkle on the main event to make things a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to find some money on the main event there. The money line was pretty good. I like Charlie Olives to win, but I think Gaethje could do it. So I was trying to picture what could happen. So, I have Gaethje to win in round 1. I have Gaethje to win in round 2. But Oliveira does have hands, and Gaethje is going to be looking to stand up the whole fight. So Oliveira by KO, I like that one a lot. At 6.35 odds, I like that one a lot.
Nice. And you're playing 4 of these to the tune of 1 unit. So you can have a little bit of fun and watch a couple of outcomes off of that 1 unit bet. We're riding heavy with some dogs. Cameron Van Camp, Tony Ferguson, Matt Schnell, Shogun Hua, and Joe Lozon, and Marcos Rogerio de Lima. That's a heavy slate of dogs, man. How many of them need to get it done for us to be plus money running such a slate of dogs?
We don't need many of the dogs to really do it, just a couple here and there. The way that I bet, I don't put a whole lot on the dogs, but I'd put a lot on the favorites. So what I do need is the favorites to come through on this card for me, and then we'll start seeing the profit there. But I like these guys. I like Cameron Van Camp. He's got 9 subs out of his 15 wins. He's got some hands. He's a B2 fighter champion, and he has, his wrestling to really save him in the fight there. I like him at 4.2 to get a submission there against Fialho coming in on a short notice.
Now we got a lot of picks riding, so we're going to see how it goes. We got 2 parlays, one on the favorite side, Norma Dumont parlayed with Rose Namajunas on the money line, and then Marcos Rogerio and Joe Lozon parlay for that 0.4 units.
Yeah, so we took the spicy one for the 0.4 units. That one's going to be pretty fun to watch. I like both of those dogs. You like both of those dogs, so let's let it ride. The Norma and Rose parlay, that one's pretty much the same thing going forward there. You know, we stole those picks from each other, so we're both very high on those fighters. They're both 1.37 odds, somewhere around that same area. So I decided to parlay them together just to get a little bit better odds off of both fights that we were pretty confident in there.
Good stuff. And once we start winning, we'll start posting our winnings. Until then, we're going to not really talk about the loss.
Yeah, that's enough.
That's enough of that. We don't talk about mispicks here.
Yeah, let's not dwell on the losses, man. This is going to be a good card. There's going to be money to be made. We're going to go looking for it. We're going to find it. And it's going to be an action-packed night. We got 15 fights to look forward to. 15 of those fights are going to be great fights. And it's going to be top-heavy there as well, even with those 2 title fights. Bring it on.
I love it. I love it. We got a little bit of old, a little bit of new. You know, that 2014 fight with Rose and Carlo was the very first time someone became champion at 115 pounds. And then you got a guy like Cowboy who's been fighting at lightweight in WEC days. So you've got a bit of old and a bit of new on that card. And it's going to be fun to see how it plays out on Saturday night.
Yeah, let's go. Something for everybody.
Something for everybody.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.